Donald Trump's prospects for winning the 2024 presidential election have surged to an impressive 58 today, representing a dramatic and unexpected shift in the political landscape. Just a few short weeks ago, the situation looked very different. In fact, Kamala Harris was leading the race by a small margin a mere 3 weeks ago. But things have changed drastically. The sharp increase in Trump's odds not only reflects his strong momentum, but also highlights the struggles Harris is facing as we inch closer to Election Day. This rapid shift is noteworthy because Harris was considered the frontrunner just a few weeks ago. Now, Trump is sitting in a position of strength, and the momentum seems to be on his side as we approach the final stretch of the campaign. But how did this turnaround happen, and what factors are driving Trump's meteoric rise? While Harris's campaigning appears to be faltering. To understand what's happening, we need to take a close look at the battleground states, where the true contest for the presidency is unfolding. These states are always crucial in determining the outcome of the election because they're often up for grabs, neither solidly Democratic nor Republican. While many states can be safely predicted to go one way or the other, Trump is unlikely to win in deep blue Democratic strongholds like New Hampshire or Maine, just as Harris is unlikely to flip traditional Republican states like Iowa or Ohio. The key battleground states are where the election will ultimately be won or lost. These 11 swing states have seen the most volatility in polls and betting markets over the past few weeks, and how they vote will determine the next president of the United States. One of the most notable examples of Trump's surge is Michigan. Just 3 weeks ago, Trump's odds of winning Michigan were at 33, a number that had many political analysts thinking the state would stay in the Democratic column. Fast forward to today, and Trump's odds have skyrocketed to 54, meaning he now has a majority chance of winning Michigan. This is a huge shift, and it's a clear sign that Trump's campaign is building serious momentum. Michigan, with it, his historically Democratic roots, has been a crucial battleground in past elections. In 2020, Biden won the state, but Trump's gains here indicate that he's pulling together a coalition that may be enough to flip Michigan back to red in 2024. But Michigan isn't the only place where Trump is making significant gains. Nevada is shaping up to be one of the closest races in the entire country. For the majority of the last 2 months, Harris was leading in Nevada, but Trump has closed the gap. Now, both Trump and Harris have a 50 chance of winning the state, making it a toss-up. What's even more interesting is that Trump has pulled ahead in the polling averages, currently leading by a slim 0.5. While that lead may seem insignificant, every fraction of a percentage matters in such a close contest. According to the latest Wall Street Journal poll, Trump is leading Harris by a solid 6 points, which is a remarkable swing. This is especially surprising when you consider that the Wall Street Journal's polls tend to lean left. The fact that Trump is now ahead in Nevada, a state that has consistently voted Democratic in recent presidential elections, is an important sign of his campaign's growing strength. Nevada hasn't voted for a Republican in a presidential race since 2004, but if Trump can flip the state in 2024, it would be a significant victory for his campaign. Based on the current trends in both polls and betting markets, Nevada seems to be leaning slightly toward Trump as we approach Election Day, making it one of the most critical states to keep an eye on. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Arizona is another battleground where Trump is making solid headway. Right now, Trump has a 68% chance of winning Arizona, which is a significant lead, especially considering the fact that Biden narrowly won the state in 2020. In the last election, Biden flipped Arizona, winning by just 0.31. But now Trump is in a commanding position to reclaim the state. It's worth noting that Trump's current odds of winning Arizona are as strong as they were back in mid-July, even before Biden dropped out of the race. Despite Harris stepping in as the Democratic nominee, her campaign hasn't been able to gain traction in Arizona. The polls show Trump leading Harris by 1.1 in Arizona, and the latest survey from the New York Times has Trump up by 5 points. Trump's polling has been consistently strong in Arizona, only briefly dipping during the Democratic National Convention when Harris enjoyed a temporary bounce. Now that the dust has settled, Trump's position has solidified, and Arizona appears to be leaning Republican according to both the polling data and the betting market. In Texas, Trump's dominance is almost guaranteed. With a 91% chance of winning, Texas is firmly in Trump's column. While there's a competitive Senate race happening in Texas with Ted Cruz facing re-election, Trump's position on the presidential level remains extremely strong. It's important to remember that the polls underestimated Trump's strength in Texas in the 2020 election, predicting a close race with only a margin. Trump ended up winning the state by a much larger margin, closer to 6 points. Right now, Trump is leading by nearly 6 points in Texas, and he's likely to increase that lead as we get closer to Election Day. Harris has made some efforts to make Texas competitive, but so far, there's little evidence that she's making any headway. Texas is firmly in Trump's camp, and that doesn't seem likely to change anytime soon. Moving to the Midwest, the picture is even more challenging for Harris. The Midwest is a crucial region for her campaign because states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are pivotal to her path to victory. If she loses even one of these states, her chances of winning the presidency will take a significant hit. Unfortunately for Harris, the situation in these states is looking increasingly grim. In Minnesota, Harris made what seemed like a strategic choice by selecting Tim Walz, the state's governor, as her running mate. This decision was likely aimed at shoring up support in Minnesota, but it's worth noting that no Democrat has lost the state since 1972. Minnesota was never really in play for Trump, so while Harris's choice of Walz might help her lock down Minnesota, it doesn't do much to improve her chances in other critical battleground states. If Harris had chosen someone like Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro as a running mate, she might have improved her chances in Pennsylvania, a far more important state in terms of electoral votes. As it stands, Harris has a 91% chance of winning Minnesota, but while that's good for her, it's not the key to winning the election. The real contest is in states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, where Harris is facing significant challenges. Wisconsin is another state where Harris's campaign is in trouble. Just a few weeks ago, Harris had a solid 60% chance of winning the state. Now, her odds have dropped to 47%, with Trump taking the lead for the first time in months. Harris still technically holds a slight lead in the polling averages, but Wisconsin's history of polling errors should be a major concern for her campaign. In 2016, for example, Hillary Clinton was projected to win Wisconsin by 6 points, but Trump ended up winning the state. In 2020, Biden was predicted to win by 6.3, but his actual margin of victory was a razor-thin 0.6. Given this history, Harris's slight polling advantage may not be as secure as it seemed. The betting markets have already shifted in Trump's favor, and Wisconsin is now leaning toward the Republican. Michigan tells a similar story. Harris's odds of winning Michigan have dropped from 70 to 46 and 46, and Trump recently took the lead in the state for the first time in 2 months. Michigan is one of the more liberal-leaning battleground states, but even here, Trump's momentum is clear. In 2020, Biden won Michigan by nearly 3 points, but Trump is now leading by 1 in the polling averages. Just like in Wisconsin, polling in Michigan has consistently underestimated Trump's support. In 2016, Clinton was projected to win Michigan by over 11 points, but Trump ended up winning the state. Biden's victory in 2020 was also narrower than expected, with Trump now leading in both the polls and the betting markets. Michigan is trending red, and if Trump secures the state, it will be a significant blow to Harris's campaign. Pennsylvania is perhaps the most important battleground of them all. Right now, Trump has a 56% chance of winning the state, and he's been leading in the polls for several weeks. His lead is narrow, just 0.3, but the overall trend is clear. Pennsylvania was always going to be a battleground state, even when Biden was still in the race, but now Trump is in the driver's seat. If Trump wins Pennsylvania, Harris's path to the presidency becomes much more difficult. Pennsylvania is leaning red on the election map, and it could very well be the state that decides the entire election. In Virginia, Harris is expected to win, but the race may be closer than some might think. Virginia hasn't gone Republican since George W. Bush, and Harris currently has a 91% chance of winning the state. However, the polls show her leading by less than 7 points, a much narrower margin than Biden's double-digit victory in 2020. While Virginia will likely stay blue, the fact that the race is tightening is another sign of Trump's growing momentum across the country. Down south North Carolina is another battleground where Harris is trailing Trump. Trump is currently leading by 3 points in the polling averages, and Harris's chances of winning the state have dropped to just 34. North Carolina is tilting red, and Trump looks to be on track to repeat his 2016 and 2020 victories in the state. For Harris to flip North Carolina, she'll need a major shift in momentum. In Georgia, another key battleground that Biden flipped in 2020, Trump is now in control. He has a 64% chance of winning Georgia, and he's leading by 0.7 in the polling averages. Georgia's been a battleground for several elections, but Trump's rise in the polls suggests the state is leaning back toward the Republicans. If Trump reclaims Georgia, it would be another significant setback for Harris's campaign. In Florida, a state that's been trending Republican for years, Harris faces almost impossible odds. Trump has a commanding 90% chance of winning Florida, and he's leading by over 6 points in the polling averages. Despite Democratic hopes that Florida could be competitive, the state appears firmly in Trump's corner for 2024. When we step back and look at the entire electoral map, it's becoming increasingly clear that Trump is on track to win most of the key battleground states. Current projections give Trump 332 electoral votes to Harris's 226, putting him in a very strong position heading into the final weeks of the campaign. Unless there's a major shift in the political landscape soon, Trump seems poised for a significant victory on Election Day. Stay tuned for more updates as we get closer to November. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for the latest political news and analysis.